battle of the jurisdictions. Malta, Switzerland, Estonia, and South Korea go head-to-head in this animated battle between jurisdictions. Jonathan Galia for Malta, Blockchain Advisory. Karen Loretz for Switzerland, MME. Dmitry Chirkin for Estonia, Humanic. Seungmin Jasmine Jung for South Korea, Jipyong. Moderated by Gregory Klumov, Stasis.
Good morning, everybody. Check, check. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Now, this is quite a packed event, right? And besides roads, Malta probably needs better conference centers, better hotels. I'm sure you're all impressed how this island develops. And I have here on the panel several experts who can share valuable opinions on different jurisdictions and how blockchain legislation will be adapted through the world. So may I start with Jasmine? Jasmine, South Korea recently banned ICOs, and now there is like a full stop on these activities. Do you think it's going to be lifted sometime soon?
Well, South Korea was actually one of the first countries to embrace the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Many of you may have heard of the term kimchi premium, which alluded to the price of cryptocurrencies in Korea being higher than in other countries. This actually, however, made the government scared because they were afraid that the mom-and-pop investors would be scammed or would lose on their savings. So what did the government do? They started banning everything. And one of the things they banned was ICO activities, especially security tokens being issued in Korea. This was promulgated in September last year, and it has been going on for a while. The problem the politicians found out is that it really didn't stop Korean companies from doing ICOs. What it happened is that Korean companies started to go overseas to do ICOs, making a lot of money for Singaporean law firms, consulting agencies, and the Korean government realized that if they continued with this ban, Korea would be at the back end of the blockchain technology. So they are revisiting ICOs and cryptocurrencies in general. The rumor, which is quite official, is that there will be new regulations that will be coming out in November, and hopefully, although I can't predict with certainty, hopefully they will provide some clarity on the direction of ICOs and cryptocurrencies in Korea.
Okay, that's clearly important to avoid regulatory arbitrage, because once some jurisdictions endorse a business-friendly legal framework and others just deny or prohibit doing business, so entrepreneurs will immediately go to the particular country with more favorable jurisdictions, right, exploiting this arbitrage. Dmitry, what is happening in Estonia? It was one of the first countries that endorsed crypto-friendly legislation, but still not much businesses managed to open bank accounts there or created companies. Can you cast some light on that jurisdiction?
Well, technically, yes. Estonia was one of the first jurisdictions to welcome DLT technology and blockchain and crypto. And I'm quite not sure whether not so many companies are established in Estonia. Based on the PwC recent newsletter, more than 31 successful ICO only in the second half of this year will run through the Estonia. I'm the international transaction lawyer, and only thing I cared when I advise my clients to go to a particular jurisdiction is the tax efficiency. So Estonia has 0 VAT and 0 corporate income tax, which is brilliant. While we are running out to make our token not the security token, we go to utility token, which has tax implications. So in Estonia, 0 tax implications. Estonia has a relevantly low cost to set up a company and the company maintenance. The key feature to open the bank account is to have the substance in the particular jurisdiction where your office is. And in Estonia, the price for setting up the real substance, real office, is very low. And now lots of developers and other IT companies move their offices to Estonia due to the fact that personal income tax are also low. So I think based on the tax regime, it's quite good. Also, we have the licenses in Estonia for crypto trading, for exchanges, and the price is also quite low, but those licenses are granted by the European Union country. That's why they can be passported to other European jurisdictions. So,
okay. Karen, you're from Switzerland, right? So Switzerland was also at the forefront of this initial footsteps, right? And they tried out to approach digital assets, classifying them into several tokens, which I think is really a right way to do it. You have to figure out that utility tokens do not require like heavy regulation, and security tokens obviously regulate as usual security, so we need to classify somehow. But since Switzerland made these comments, it put quite a halt on multiple activities that appeared in the country. So what is currently happening, and when will Swiss companies will be able to open bank accounts for the ICO funds they raised?
Yeah, good question. I mean, what happened to Switzerland? In February this year, the regulator FINMA issued ICO guidelines, and as you said, they made a classification of tokens. So there are payment token, utility token, and asset token. And since then, you haven't heard anything. But that's only from an outside perspective, to be honest, because when you're inside, a lot is really happening. So this ICO guidelines, or the ball was actually rolling since then, since they published the ICO guidelines, because there was a lot of legal certainty as of from then. People knew what kind of token they're actually issuing, or what kind of token they want to issue. They had some guidelines, and also banks, which is very important part. The banks felt more comfortable because finally the regulator gave some guidelines and also a statement. So it's also about a statement and not only given guidelines. And and since then, the Swiss Bankers Association also gave out some guidelines. It's a self-regulatory organization on how to onboard, let's say, crypto millionaires or crypto companies. Also, this is a very important milestone. The banks feel now more and more comfortable to actually onboard crypto companies and also ICO companies. That's what we see as lawyers, as law firm, as MME, that a lot of banks are actually approaching us and asking for advice in this field. Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, you are shaping your career particularly about cryptocurrencies regulation and AML, actually, right? And AML has been the big subject, big topic. Do you think it's possible to continue winning this war against regulators, that cryptocurrency is in a sense a digital cash that is traceable, and it is better than cash in the sense that with cash it's impossible to trace big amounts of it, but with digital currencies there is always a blockchain that is out there and everybody can go out and see how the transactions went through?
Incidentally, in 2014, when I started writing my doctorate of law thesis on the subject of Bitcoin and its effect on money laundering laws, naturally I had no resources to refer to back then, but when I was studying the technology and the way it worked, particularly, of course, in relation to Bitcoin, I could see that effectively the regulators could potentially have something on their hands which is much, much more efficient and better at tracking and tracing financial transactions. And in fact, in my conclusion to my thesis, I stated that although blockchain technology, in relation to Bitcoin particularly, utilizes a method where you know the transactions, but not necessarily know the persons behind transactions, it is far easier to deal with than the current system where you know the persons, but you don't know the transactions. Because effectively, in order to find out who the persons are behind the transactions, then all you need to do is collect information about them and associate them with a particular wallet address. And I wonder how long it will take regulators around the world to realize that they actually have Pandora's box right in front of them. So essentially, yes, I believe that, again, blockchain technology will lend itself to the fight against money laundering, but I think the worst enemy of money laundering is the current regulation itself. When I was studying for my thesis, I came across the words international cooperation multiple times. International cooperation here, we should work with other jurisdictions to stop the fight against money laundering, and so on and so forth. First of all, where's the international cooperation? Decades after we started talking about regulating anti-money laundering. Secondly, how come in 2018 we're still requesting certain documents such as proof of address in a world which is largely becoming nomadic? We're all digital nomads. So why are we still trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole? So I think rather than trying to see whether technology is a threat at this stage, I think we should see whether regulation is really a threat and try, of course, understand once and for all that regulation always has to follow technology no matter what.
Okay, well, Maltese example basically already proving that this crypto-friendly, business-friendly legal framework is influencing local economy. Debt to GDP ratio is probably the lowest in Europe, and GDP growth rate is highest in Europe. So what do you guys think the last part of the puzzle to bring institutional investors really more involved in this space? Because it's crucial to understand that asset class can only live for a considerable period of time when institutional investors get interested in it. And there are multiple investment products being opened, created, allocated to the asset class to really classify it as a true member of liquid alternatives. So could you please, just starting from Jasmine's, tell your opinion, what do we lack to get more institutional guys involved in digital assets?
One phenomenon that we're seeing in this space is actually not decentralization, but a concentration of all the different functions in the cryptocurrency space, all being combined into one company or one institution. I'm sure many of you have heard of the pump and dump phenomenon, which is often being conducted in cryptocurrency exchanges. You also see cryptocurrency exchanges performing many functions, even some go into OTC transactions. And really, this is one of the reasons why institutional investors are actually afraid of going into this space, because they don't see the compliance measures that used to be in place with traditional financial institutions. And with those compliance measures comes professionalism or expertise. And that's what I think is necessary to be built and also to be regulated in order for financial institutions to gain more trust and maybe a little more comfort in coming into this space.
Okay. Dmitry?
Well, I think the lack of something seamless between crypto and fiat really prevents institutional investors.
That's what we do, actually.
Actually, yes. We all do this. For instance, I think the security token offering is something that institutional investors are waiting for. We are assisting certain companies and combine 22 national depository agencies in order to make kind of Euroclear on the blockchain. We also help our clients to set up the association, which will be like expert trading agency. Institutional investors need, let's say, the shift of responsibility, and if there will be the association or something that can bear the risk of fraud or something on your crypto counterparty, being, for example, a bank, that will be a perfect solution. So I think the security token, the, let's say, depository and shift of responsibility.
Okay, thanks. Karen?
Well, I don't want to talk about the institutional investor necessarily. I just want to explain in Switzerland how the whole landscape shifted from like startups and small companies to banks and big asset managers and even stock exchanges that are interested in engaging in blockchain technology, in crypto assets and so on. So there we see like a real shift from like small companies to, let's say, institutional investors investors or financial institutions actually that are interested in building on a solid blockchain technology as a basis. As you might have heard, the Swiss Stock Exchange published that they will build a Swiss digital exchange, so all on blockchain technology, which is quite revolutionary, I would say. And FINMA, the regulator, is now talking to the Swiss Stock Exchange how to best set it up and so on. So there we see that in the beginning it was more like small startups that wanted to engage in blockchain and crypto assets, and now it's really being a shift from big banks, even big banks, and the Swiss Stock Exchange that is moving into this direction. So.
Okay, Jonathan?
I think what investors and users alike need first and foremost is time. Time to understand this technology and time to allow the technology to mature further as well. I mean, blockchain technology, as we know it, is only 10 years old. So the internet took around 50 years in order to become mainstream. However, apart from that, I think we have to shift away from this whole utility concept versus securities and so on and so forth. I mentioned this in the past. But just because something has utility doesn't mean I'm going to use it. I mean, I might have a pickaxe over here, doesn't mean I'm going to use it. It has utility, but not for my own particular needs. So what we really need in order to attract investors is to start providing value. If we take a look at blockchain technology right now, I think its only use so far, as in terms of large-scale use, has been the issuance of cryptocurrencies. I haven't seen anything yet taking off in a spectacular fashion. If you take a look at Ethereum, the biggest dApp so far has been CryptoKitties, which of course says it all. So what we need is to start creating value to, of course, entice the mainstream users and investors to start believing in this technology and see how it can help, of course, shape their lives in a better way.
I would also like to add that education is very important. So we need to help people climb the learning curve of what this particular digital asset is, because even with the internet, as you said, it took really some time for people to figure out how it can change their lives for better, how information is being moved, right? So regardless of what's happening on the cryptocurrency markets right now and prices are falling, as you see, there is a significant investment going on in the industry. People allocating capital, hiring talent, countries are starting to compete for this exciting marketplace. So, and this all will influence significantly and bring more development to the industry for the years to come. I think it's really important to keep a close track on what happens next. Of course, there'll be some regulatory arbitrage between jurisdictions, but hopefully European Union will figure it out and adopt some kind of global policy on the top level, how to address these digital assets. And conferences like this is very important because people can come and learn about this new exciting technology. With that, we're out of time. I would like you to thank our panelists, please. And yeah, have a very nice conference. There is a big conference center out there. You could meet the companies who operate in the space and learn from them. Thank you, guys.